Hi, I'm Dradar, and I love FNF. If you don't know what that is, it's a game that originally came out on Newgrounds in 2020, where you play as the main character, boyfriend, who every Friday tries to spend time with his girlfriend, but ends up usually having to rap battle someone. The gameplay is pretty obvious: hit arrows that show up from the bottom of the screen when they align with the arrows at the top of the screen, DDR style. Also, you should know that the game has one of the best modding scenes since I had time. And I've been playing since September 2020, 1 month after the game came out. Now, I've played plenty of mods over the years, and one of my favorites is Cross. Cross is a very well done, very polished, pretty difficult mod made by a very talented team where you fight against three iconic indie franchises: Cuphead, Undertale, and Bendy and Ink Machine, with more on the way at the time of recording this. It's one of those rare mods where everything is near perfect. The songs are bangers, the crossover aspect is done really well, and it feels like the developers want to honor every game as respectfully as possible. And the art is cool, the characters are fantastic, and the story is interesting. The music in this mod is legendary, from Snake Eyes to Boondoggle, all the way to Goose. Even the weakest song, in my opinion, Final Stretch, is still appealing and I still like it. The animations in this mod are spectacular, and it feels like the animators were giving their all, and the stuff they made in the gameplay and the cutscenes, especially, are spectacular. Now, I've wasted enough time talking. Now it's time to explain why I made this video. I love despair. I would give anything to feel the way I felt when I first beat despair again. Having a song that at first seemed simple, only to blast you with simply a challenging mechanics, is such a cool way of presenting the fair-like moment that despair is. Completing despair is one of the best things I've ever had as an FNF player. It feels impossible most of the time, and if you mess up once, your run is over. And that makes the feeling of beating it so exciting that you end up feeling like you just accomplished the most impossible task of your life. And the easy start in the first 2 minutes, the really difficult next 2 minutes, and the absolute peak as the final minute of the song is spectacular. And the idea of any of all characters getting a nightmare form given how powerful he already is kinda, sorta terrifying. And the song portrays him perfectly. This is the only song in the mod against Benny that has only one word in the title. And that's kind of a cool detail that I wanted to point out. And Bendy slamming in front of you, similar to from the sky before standing up when the party kicked in, is so cool. The absence of the bad notes from the other Benny songs at the start and then coming in later is a unique way of reversing the difficulty. Then the background is lit up by a harsh yellow light revealing the giant ink machine in the back, which implies that it's takes place during chapter 5. And the choir and mechanics and Bendy all go in.
You need cross, more like.
The presence of the ink machine makes me think that after Bendy became his nightmare form, he became strong enough to stop Henry and was able to use the ink machine to perfect himself and become even stronger. Headcanon aside, after that, the song continues, but with a moment of silence from Bendy and Boyfriend. Then you start again with hold notes meant to give you a health pack. Then stuff kicks in again, and you realize that this is charted to have bad note overload, and you're constantly worried you might hit one or miss a dodge in the butcher game. You feel like that for the next 2 minutes, and the last minute happens. Before that, I want to say the last minute of despair. Last, of course. So I'm first going to talk about despair musically. The bell signifies the end times. Now, I'm not someone who knows about music theory or song composure or even how to make good ones, but something I can say is I think Despair sounds awesome. The start of Despair is great, starting off with a bell that sets off the pipe organs that builds up to Benny's landing, and the choir as soon as Benny stands, with the charting of the bad notes singing with the choir and the amazing drums building up again to Benny's vocals. Oh my god, it's so good. Then when the ink machine lights up again, it goes in once more. Then the constant mash of Benny's voice, the longer choir, the build up to Boyfriend singing to a duet, to the moment of silence from Benny and Boyfriend is fantastic. Now to me, the most important thing in an FNF song is the opponent character's voice, or chromatics. Whether they fit the character, sound cool, or the variation where instead voice acting is used. For me, it's what can make or break an FNF song. And thankfully, and I guess predictably, the vocals for Nightmare Bendy are really cool. It's something as normal ones in every other song, but more like corrupted and demonic. They contrast Boyfriend's vocals really well, which is with his very like high-pitched voice. In addition to being really cool sounding, my favorite part of Despair musically has to be the choir, with the choir building up and dropping with the instruments. And the choir feels like the most important part of the music itself. I'll detail more about that later. Now that I've talked about the music, I now want to talk about the gameplay. Holy fuck, this is hard. I used a Dark Souls analogy once while playing it for the first time, and I think it was more accurate than I initially thought. The mechanics are the same as in other Benny songs with the Shadow and 8 notes, but with the Butcher Gang, Fisher now runs past you, swinging his head in a circle, dealing half your health if you don't dodge it. So if you have to deal with that, as well as the entire Butcher Gang up there, the darkened background is specifically designed to hide both of those, and it makes it really, really difficult. Benny doesn't drain your health anymore with his notes, which is nice, but it's still hard as balls. Though, the feel I get from playing it is nothing that has ever been matched by any song I've ever played before, or since. The feeling of fear, the panic when the ink machine lights up, and the notes show back up. The sense of accomplishment when you pass that said light up section, to the relief and excitement of beating it at the end. The thought of hitting a bad note at any moment is fed greatly by the note overload I mentioned earlier. Also, I love the detail in the charting where the bad notes are often sync with the music, with choir specifically. So if you try hitting them so it's kind of funny because if you try hitting them as practice or for fun to see it with the music, you fucking die. That's all I want to say about the gameplay, for now at least. Next, I want to talk about the art. Despair looks amazing. Benny is easily the best design in the entire mod to me. The tall figure, the gleam in his eye, his hands engulfed in yellow flames and sharp claws, the huge toothy grin on his face, the spikes on his back, and in his animations his mouth opens showing sharp ink teeth contrasting his yellow maw and having some ink teeth stick together. The animations on him are some of the coolest animations on any character that I've seen in all of FNF. I love how when he moves he's so fast that he causes blur in his movement, and when he holds a note you get a better look at him and they're bad. But when he hits normal notes, he's charted to have his full poses easily be missed. I think my favorite animation of his is the right one, mainly because it's one of the rare animations and instances where the opponent flips off Boyfriend. And it's the one you're less likely to miss, due to the fire contrasting the black of his hands, as well as just how big his hand is. The background is also neat, having a giant ink machine from Chapter 5, and the foreground that looks like it could be some sort of like yellow lit part of hell, with various items that would be found in Bendy. Thus the only Nightmare song with Boyfriend is actually Scared, showing just how much of a threat NB is. Now that I've said what I wanted to say, now I wanted to talk about the best part and my absolute favorite parts of Despair. Despair's final minute is where the song and FNF peak. I like to call this section the Fires of Despair, because this is where you're most likely returning and feeling despair. Right here, to the hardest part of the entire mod, where the rising fire burns into your memory as you feel the rush of the music and the growing fire. The Fires of Despair goes like this. The song slows down as you and Bendy hit hold notes. Then, after the hold notes, most of the music rests as the amazing guitars start to build up, the fire rising in the back, creating one of the greatest visuals in all of FNF to me, outlining Bendy and better showing off his shape and how the fire builds at the same time as the music, and then Bendy joins the build-up, then you join the build-up, and then everything I wanted to talk about is here. This is why Despair is peak FNF. This is when FNF reaches its finale. This is not just any FNF song. This is the final boss of FNF. This is peak FNF. Everything from the music to the background to the cool jump scare at the end to the intensity of the mechanics make this as awesome and as peak FNF as it is. The best part of the Fires of Despair for me? Nah, the best part of the Fires of Despair, objectively, is the choir. The choir doesn't feel like just a choir. It feels like an ally. Like the angels themselves are there and fighting with you against the full power of the Ink Demon himself. And the demon knows it, and is using everything he can to stop you. And when that fails, he decides to try and go for the player themselves, implying that, like Sans, Bendy is now aware of the player. And that is another terrifying aspect of Despair. Honestly, my only flaw with Despair is the difficulty, of course, and the bug that speeds up the charting every time you die, and that's not even the fault of the song. Also, quickly, I want to mention the Bloxen version of the song. It's just as good, and even better in some aspects, like how you actually get something for being it, which is the expertly designed Nightmare Bendy rig. And the rig looks awesome. It has a yellow outline, so it's easier to actually see Bendy within the design. And the 3D look of Nightmare Bendy is awesome looking. Though the frame animation doesn't flip you off anymore, which, I mean, it's Roblox, of course they weren't gonna fucking do that. So, hey, what are you gonna do? Also, please, for the love of God, play FNB. It's an amazing game that easily beats any other Roblox FNF game by a landslide. It's pretty much the definitive FNF multiplayer game. And support the devs too. Anyway, great job guys, and I can't wait for more. So, yeah, this is the very first video essay I've ever made, and I'm really happy it was about something I'm passionate about. And if you could please support this video so that all the time and effort I put into this and the amount of procrastination I put into it are all valid. Thank you so much for watching.